Hey, welcome back. It's Jennifer J, and this is Moving Forward. And sorry, I'm going to get the pillow out of my way. This is episode 89, and we're going to be talking today about what was happening in October. So, October 10th in particular, I was reading the book, The God Ask, and that was part of my assignment work from Arise as I was onboarding and they were, seeing if this was going to be a good fit and all that sort of thing. I had this book to read because as a full-time missionary, I'm fully supporter funded. So Arise doesn't pay my salary. I have people who support my ministry that pay my salary. So because of that, having not support raised yet at this point in time, I can't quit my day job. So I'm trying to do the Arise stuff, but I'm also still needing to work to pay bills, obviously. And so it's making it really difficult to really spend a lot of time doing the ministry side of it. But I'm trying to read the book, and in the book it said that I needed to have some people that were praying for me. I needed like an inner circle, so to speak. Jesus had his three, Peter, James, and John, that were his inner circle. He certainly had his 12, the disciples, or apostles. And in the book, it talked about having like 3 to 6. And it did mention that somebody had 10 once, and that kind of worked out okay and whatever. And so it was talking about having this group. So I was praying about my group, and I called it my circles. I'm not sure if the book called it that or if I called it that. It doesn't matter, but that's what I called it. So I had in my mind that I needed 12, and the book kind of made it sound like that maybe was too many. And so I just was talking to God about it and like, show me what I need. And I reached down because right beside my living room chair, I had a book by Oswald Chambers, My Utmost for His Highest. You might have heard of it. It is a daily devotional, kind of like the Jesus Calling that a lot of people have nowadays, but that's much more current. This was written, I think, in 1920s or something, so it's really old-fashioned, but it's really, really good. And I opened it up, and the scripture that I read right after having prayed, because that's how God works with me during this time, I read Luke 18, verse 3, and it said, "And then he took unto him the 12. And I went, okay, so 12 was already in my mind, and now you've confirmed that with this scripture, so I'm going to choose 12. So I sat down and started making a list of who that 12 should be. And, I'm putting on it people that went to my luncheon or my dinner with Julie and Allie in July. I'm putting on it my close friends from Back to School Bash. I'm putting on it my best friend and my cousin, and then I put on some kind of outliers, some people that I wasn't sure would even respond, but I felt like they were prayer warriors and I was going to ask them. So I ended up with a list of about 20 women, and I thought, okay, I'm going to pray over this list, and then I'm going to send a message to all of them, and the first 12 that respond, that's going to be my 12. So I did, and I sent this list out to 20 people, and 12 responded within the first 24 hours. The 12 responded. Others responded 3 or 4 days later, or a week later, or whatever, and I just told them I already had my circle, and that was fine. If they want to pray, that's awesome. Everybody was good with that, like they had enough on their plate or whatever, and so it just worked out. God sent me the 12 that I need. And so I have 6 women from Phoenix. Most of them go to my church, and I do have the pastor's wife is one of those, and then I have 4 women from Kansas, and one of those is my former pastor's wife. And then I also have my best friend is in Albuquerque, and my cousin, who is also my best friend, love you, Bev, and she's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So or that area. Anyway, so that rounded out my 12. So I have this circle of 12 that he gave me. And that same day, I got in the mail my offer letter from Arise. So I was so excited to open that and read it and accept my offer letter to come on board and be the city leader Phoenix for Arise out of East West. And so that all became official. And also that day, I got a message from my sweet friend, Jamie Stevens. And she had told me that God's plan for me will not be thwarted. And that was a real encourager for me. It came in late in the day that day, after I'd already been kind of doing all of this stuff. You know, I worked all day and then kind of praying about this and working on this in the evening. And you get discouraged, you know. I'm out here in Arizona. I'm kind of by myself. My sisters do live an hour away, and my niece. So they're kind of here, but they're not here. You know, I'm in my apartment by myself most of the time. I work at home, so I'm not out around people unless I go to church, which I do quite often. But I hike. I do. You see my Facebook and my social media, so you know I do stuff. I try to get out, but I'm here a lot by myself. So I spend a lot of time with God. And so that was just really encouraging for Jamie to send me that, and very timely. And then on the 23rd, I did a YouTube sermon with Greater Archview Baptist Church, and it was Kenneth Martin, and it was called The Lord Will Provide. And it was out of 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 1 through 8. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but there are some things I am going to read to you out of the John MacArthur study notes, because it was just really good stuff. It's all such good stuff. But he said, God is able, and there is power in the promise. And man, there is power in the promise of God, because God is faithful and he is able. And he had said in this chapter, it says, give and it will be given to you. He provides when we're generous. So he is able and he will provide when we are generous. One thing I liked in the John MacArthur study notes, it said, let's see, I think it was verse 8. Nope, it was verse 6. So in verse 6 it says, but this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. And in John MacArthur study notes, he said, the simple self-evident principle which Paul applied to the Christian giving, that the harvest is directly proportionate to the amount of seed sown. So bountifully is derived from the Greek word which gives us the word eulogy or blessing. When a generous believer gives by faith and trusts in God with a desire to produce the greatest possible blessing, that person will receive that kind of a harvest of blessing. God gives a return on the amount of that one invests with him. Invest a little, receive a little, and vice versa. So I want to skip down to verse 8, though, because it gets really interesting here. So he says, all grace abounds towards you. God possesses an infinite amount of grace. Of course he does. And he gives it lavishly without holding back. But here the word grace doesn't refer to spiritual grace, but to money and material needs. So I thought that was really interesting. And when the believer generously and wisely gives of his material resources, God graciously replenishes them so that he always has plenty and will not be in need. Now, it does go on further to say this isn't so that you can spend it selfishly or on selfish desires, but so that you can further help the needy, and be generous to help a variety of needs. So I just thought that was really interesting stuff. That's, you know, I know a lot of you in church, you've heard the Greek or the Hebrew word has many different meanings, but in the English language, we just have one word with lots of different meanings. I don't know if I said that right, but the way we translate the word grace, we just have the word grace. But in the original language, they might have had 3 or 4 different words that meant grace, but they're different kinds of grace. And so this particular word that he's using for grace wasn't talking about spiritual grace, but was talking about monetary and material blessings. And so I thought that was really and lightning. So he gives proportion, and proportion means abound, and it means to overflow or exceed more than enough. And provision is always having all things. So if he says he's going to provide, it's always having all things. So, you know, it's always having all things. It's having everything that you need. Do you have food in your stomach? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have clothes to wear? He's going to take care of you. I tell people lately, because I am super broke, you guys, but I've been just trusting God, and he's been taking care of me. When I wake up in the morning, I thank him for air in my lungs. I woke up, I have another day to try and do it right, to try and obey, to try and not sin, to try and further his kingdom, you know, to try and gush about God to whoever will listen. And then when I go to bed at night, I thank him that I have a roof over my head and I'm not hungry. I have food in my belly. So it's not always maybe what I wanted to eat, but I have food in my belly. So I try to thank him for those things and be grateful and recognize that he has provided me everything that I need. I have safety and security. I have clothes to wear. I have what I need to bathe and take care of myself. You know, I have everything that I need. I might not have everything that I want, but I have everything that I need. And so I'm very grateful for that. Also, just talking a little bit more about Arise. So being in that ministry, what I plan to do as city leader Phoenix is to train and equip women to share the gospel in the streets of Phoenix. And so that is the goal, and that is what my mission here will be, is to share the gospel and train and equip women to share the gospel, to share their stories, just to tell their stories. And so if that is something that you are interested in your town, I would like you to message me, because there is a way that you can do that. And it doesn't have to be being a full-time missionary. There are many different avenues through East West to do that, or to learn to do that, and you don't even have to do it through them. But I would be happy to train and equip you as well, so that you know how to do that. It is not difficult, but it does take a time commitment, and it takes courage, and it takes a lot of prayer. So let me know if you are interested in any of that, and I'd be happy to share with you. And in the meantime, I'm going to stop there, because my next little bit is Sarah Jakes at the Potter's House, Sarah Jakes Roberts. And it's called, you guys, are you ready? Arise and Go. I was so excited to hear that one. So we're going to talk about that one next time. It'll be episode 90 already. Can't believe that. And so we're going to talk about that, and it's going to be about Gideon. So if you want to read about Gideon before our next one, I was trying to look for the exact scripture reference, but I don't have it, so you might just have to look that up. Gosh, I can't believe I don't have it, but I don't. So at least not that I'm finding real quick when I skim. So anyway, if you want to read that, or if you want to go back and read through 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 1 through 8, and if you have a study Bible, I'd recommend reading the study notes too. They're really helpful, like I said, like just what I read to you. It's just really helpful to better understand what it is that you're reading. So we will meet back here next time, and we will go over Sarah Jakes Roberts and Arise and Go. And until then, you guys all have a good week. Bye-bye.